My name's Jay. I work in a small office building as a sales associate of a small brand security software company. I'm not going to bore you with the details of my unexciting job. The only reason I put up with it is to provide for my girlfriend and my daughter, who was born about 11 months ago. I usually spend most of my time in the office screwing around on the internet and wishing something interesting would happen besides the stupid, typical workplace gossip that went around all the time. My wish was granted in a pretty unfortunate way about 2 weeks ago. My coworker, an HR rep who we'll call Dan for the sake of anonymity, came into work freaking out about a USB flash drive he had lost. He made a huge scene throwing people's stuff off their desks, yelling at our manager, and basically just having a panic attack right in the middle of the office. He kept saying it was a little red flash drive with the letter K written on it in black Sharpie. It threw us all off guard. We had no idea what was going on, but building security came and took Dan off the premises. That night, Dan killed himself in his home with a bullet to the head. We were shocked and saddened to hear about it the next day. The thing about Dan was that he used to be a very outgoing and friendly guy. But about 6 months ago, his 8-year-old daughter, Catherine, was hit by a car riding her bike and fell into a coma. Dan was a single father and loved his daughter more than anything. His desk was always full of pictures of her, and he always talked about her accomplishments. She was apparently an amazing cello player. Needless to say, he was devastated by her injuries and became a quiet shell of his former self. Catherine stayed in a coma for about 3 months before she passed away. Dan held a very private funeral for her, or so another coworker had told me, and refused to talk about her death with anyone. He withdrew himself from the rest of the office and hardly made a noise until his breakdown right before he committed suicide. I wonder, if he had just found the flash drive, would he have not killed himself? Well, fate works in mysterious ways. While Dan couldn't find what he was looking for, I found it this morning. I was making myself a cup of coffee in the break room and accidentally dropped a packet of sugar behind the coffee station. I bent down to pick it up, and lo and behold, underneath the table there was a red flash drive with the letter K written on it. Shocked, I picked it up and wondered what to do with it. I mulled it over all day and eventually decided to take it home and see what was on it. I know it sounds selfish. I probably should have maybe contacted his family about it. But I'm honestly glad I took it because it has made this one of the most intriguing days of my life. I went home and put it into my computer. The drive was called K, and it had just 4 folders inside, all titled in caps. One was named Pics, one Roland, one Teach, and the last Talk. In the Pics folder, there were some nice pictures of Dan and his daughter having fun together at some amusement park that I don't really feel comfortable sharing on the internet. Those are his memories, not something for us to oogle at. The next folder, Roland, was a bit more disturbing. It seemed to be a couple of scanned articles. They were a little hard to read, but they all referred to projects being done by some company called Roland Biomech. I guess this company experimented with applying certain technologies to help disabled and injured patients. One article referenced an experiment in which the patient had lost all of his teeth, so they replaced his entire jaw with some sort of grinding system that would shred the food in his mouth before it went to his esophagus. An addendum at the bottom of the article said that the system collapsed, and the patient's entire face sunk into itself, killing him instantly. Another article referred to an experiment done by hooking up machinery into a depressed patient's brain and using software to try and remove the depression by streaming happy images from the internet directly into the patient's mind. At first, it was successful, but soon the patient was determined to have been receiving too much information, and she went into a catatonic state after hours of screaming about knowing everything all at once. Then, it looked like there were some forms that Dan himself had filled out for Roland Biomech. The applications, which were dated about 3 months ago, documented Dan's personal information, Katherine's comatose state, her blood type, age, and other stuff like that. One yes or no question asked on all of the forms was, "Are you comfortable with any alterations, major or minor, that the patient may have after operations have been completed?" To which Dan had ticked yes. Under a line titled "Procedure Requested," Dan had written in, "Uploaded awareness." Stamped over this was the word "approved." One of the last articles was the hardest to make out. But to be fair, some areas of it were highlighted and notes were scribbled along the sides of it in pen. Now, I'm not a programmer. I just sell the software. But I swear the article looked just like program executions and codes. A lot of it was sorted into columns which were titled things like memories, emotions, problem solving, etc. One of the handwritten notes I could make out read, "Folder names for input-output, teach, talk." Deciding I had had enough of this cryptic bullshit, I clicked out of the Roland folder and went to teach. This one had the most files by far, a bunch of scripts with strange file names like hello.cpp, howwasyourday.cpp, and playthecello.cpp. There was also one downloadable file called KATHERINE.exe. I clicked on the file and the download started. Just a colored loading bar launched and nothing else. When it was finished downloading, a small black screen came up with white text that read, "Insert command." Confused, I minimized the program and clicked out of the Teach folder. I went into the last folder, Talk, and saw that it was empty. I was fairly disappointed. What was this nonsensical stuff? I clicked back into Teach and clicked on 2 of the script files at random, hello.cpp and playthecello.cpp. The small black screen that showed up earlier closed. Then, all on its own, the Talk folder opened with a new file in it, whoareyou.wav. I'm going to play the sound for you now, and if you listen closely, you might be able to make out the sound that I heard. A cello playing in the background. And at the end, a small voice asking, "Who are you?" I honestly don't know exactly what to make of this, but I do know that Dan loved his daughter more than anything. And if there was any way for him to keep her around, no matter how sketchy it seemed, he probably would have done it. Why else would he be in contact with that company? What could be in this flash drive that was so important to Dan, that he killed himself when he thought he had lost it? Those Roland people turned that poor little girl into a computer program. And I just downloaded and communicated with her. A short time after posting this, I received a strange letter in the mail. It read, "To home occupant. It has come to our attention that the occupant of this house has recently come into contact with property belonging to Roland Biomech, or one of its affiliated entities. It is on record that the occupant has intended to redistribute the property. The property in question is as filed. Uploaded awareness. Please keep in mind that redistribution of any property belonging to Roland Biomech, or one of its affiliated entities, will result in removal of the aforementioned property, and compensation to the amount of what our nearest operator sees fit. If you would like to make an appointment with Roland Biomech for our unique charitable services, Please consult an operator or any Roland Biomech property. We will be monitoring any further activity we view as questionable. Signed, Roland Biomechanicals. Security and Property Management.